Two. All right, we're on.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Ruben and Jesse podcast. And today we have an awesome and special guest, Mr. Niko. How do I pronounce your last name? Crequat?
Yeah, kind of. Crequat.
Oh.
That's a good one. You got it. Pretty good.
There we go. Pretty
Yeah.
close.
Yep.
Niko, my man. Well, Ruben, I'll let Ruben take this one off since you guys had your first brotherly love connection on IG and have brought me into it. So, Ruben, why don't you let the people know how you guys got connected?
Well, shout out to Bryant because he was the one who introduced Nick to me through Instagram, and then Nick and I just made some time. We jumped on a call and really talked back and forth about how we want this interview to go, what to talk about, and obviously, I saw Niko's profile. I was like, this dude's jacked, and he has the name Online Calisthenics. And I was just like, yeah, we definitely want to talk about that, especially when it comes to podcasts, and we're all about wellness and nutrition and everything. I thought it would be amazing to talk about like those differences. So Nick, obviously I would like for you to start, like, how did you get into fitness? I think that's a great place to start. Kind of like everyone has their journey and their story of how they got into it and why they do it so consistently versus, the typical person who does it for a little while, stops, does it for a little while, stops. But you've been going and going. So we'd love to hear your kind of origin story in the fitness space.
Yeah, that's well, it's an actual long journey, really, and it's been there's been cycles into it. So I was not always a fitness guru at all. I wanted to be a tennis player when I was younger. I was fascinated with sports, so I've trained a lot of tennis, let's say between 10 and 20 years old. And then I got injured. I was lacking the physical aspect of things, really. The conditioning aspect was my most my least well rounded area. So I got injured my shoulder pretty gravely and I had to stop. So
were you a Federer or Nadal fan?
I was Federer for sure. I was Sampras, actually.
Yeah.
I was Pete Sampras, really the era right before that, and then Federer for sure. And then, but yeah, I was fascinated with tennis, and it just it takes a toll on you. And I just got injured, got tired of the whole training, 10 hours a week, and then I stopped everything literally. And from 20 to 25, went to college, had a girlfriend, went to party, did all the bad stuff, like sleeping late, drinking, all the stuff, eating junk foods. I had my blast of that for 5 years, and then I felt horrible at the end. I really needed a break of that, and so I started training again. And I discovered real training with people that were in my club, because where I was training tennis, there's multiple athletes there, so they taught me a bunch of stuff, and really a good amount of foundations. I've trained with rugby players, I've trained with swimmers, I've trained with tennis players, triathletes, all that kind of elite athletes. And after 3 years, I still needed another thing. So I needed to a new thing, and I discovered calisthenics by running around my house in Paris, because I'm from France. And some
So
guy.
when you were in the athletics club, what type of training were you doing at the time? What was the type of
It was really
sort of
the
exercise routine?
the basic, like the foundation gym stuff, the bench press, the deadlift, the weight, the heavy weight stuff, but proper. Really, I learned with athletes that were doing it for their training. So I wasn't with the gym bros, or anything. Like, they taught me the technique. They taught me like how to be humble, how to progress little by little. So I learned that
Yeah.
pretty
So
solidly, and that was great.
like classical bodybuilding and powerlifting sort of training.
Yeah, exactly. The foundation of
Okay,
that.
cool.
And then I saw kind of a limit of this, because I'm all natural. I don't take anything, I don't take creatine, I don't take anything. So after a while, once you get like 200 pounds on your bench press, you kind of like, you have it, but then you feel the limit. Like, you feel you can add like maybe 2 pounds, to the bar, and every, basically you reach plateaus at one point. And not to say that you can't break them if you don't juice up, but it's kind of like the idea. Once you can keep a good solid foundation and a great body doing that for a long time, but then you just plateau. And I needed something else. Like, I wanted something more fun, more more communal, more just, more free. That was just not in the setup. And I randomly discovered calisthenics, jogging around my house in Paris, and a small park, literally a really small park. And there's some dudes doing some pull-ups and some muscle ups and some stuff there. And they were so jacked. They were like super lean, cut, extremely good athletes. And they were just doing it for free in the street, like having fun with their friends. And they're amazing athletes. I mean, I had never seen that in my life, really. It was pretty new back in the days. Nobody would muscle up. You wouldn't see that nowhere else than on YouTube, basically. And so I got the, it sparked really the attention and the idea and want to do it. And then I kind of joined the team. I had to, make my way in, like learn my grade, or as I don't know how you guys say it, but you got to earn it. Basically, you got to do your push-ups, you got to show that you want to do it. And then the team brings
earn
you
your
in,
stripes.
basically. Yeah, basically. Yeah. It's like, and that's how it started, really. And I became part of that group, and I never stopped ever since, every single day since that day, basically.
So tell us about that time. So what was this group, and what were sort of, when you, I'm assuming you came up to them and were like, you guys are cool, I want to be cool too. And so, what was sort of the things they had you start doing? Because I can relate to the experience of having, when I started my own workout journey, fitness journey, I was very much into bodybuilding, powerlifting, and I was even at a powerlifting gym at one point and doing heavy reps and sets, and you get pretty stiff, like you get pretty rock like. And moving into calisthenics, I mean, the beauty is that you can transfer over a lot of the power, like the explosiveness that you get from lifting like that, but so you're still restricted, because in my experience, and I'd love to like dig into this at some point, is like calisthenics is a lot more volume and a lot more flexibility and mobility involved in the movements themselves. So I'm just curious to know where were you in those beginning days?
Yeah, you're right. It's a different type of training. The volume and the intensity are different. I honestly, I wasn't really aware of the way it was working. So they had me, I mean, I was struggling really bad. So that's the first answer, is like, they had me struggle. Like the struggle part, it was the foundation of my learning. I actually learned how to struggle there. It's really like, because in the cozy gym, and like you have all your tools, and you're in your comfort zone, basically, in your gym, right? People like set their minds up to like go to the comfort zone. In the beginning, it's not necessarily comfortable, but then once you get used to the gym, it's kind of like where you want to go, right? It's like, so the first thing that they taught me is to just step out of that zone. And then they challenged me to do things that I really would not do before, which is like heavy sets of push-ups. That's your test, basically. Like they get you to do your max, like straight up. You get to the park and they're like, all right, what's your max? And so you just step on the ground and you do push-ups. And of course, some of the guys that come here, like they try to just overdo it and then do shitty reps. So they were really stingy about the form and the reps. Like that's like, that was their thing, So I learned like, oh wow, a push-up, a shitty push-up is not the same thing as a good push-up. So basically, they got me started with the essential basic stuff, doing it right, basically, and a lot. And that was that was the key here, right? They were like, you can not joke around, like say, oh man, I don't need to do my push-ups, or I can do however many. They're like, no, just do it now, show us. And then and then really you'd realize that after 40 you gas out, like when you're not trained properly for the endurance and the when you don't have the strength, really the strength endurance, you just fail. And then it feels great because you feel exhausted and you're like, man, I only did push-ups. I used to do the bench press, for 5 reps or whatever, the heavy for 5 reps. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm only doing push-ups and I'm destroyed. So I need to get better at this. And the humility factor really was a big thing. Really, it's they got it started. It got started like this. Really, it's like I thought I was kind of like strong, and I trained for a long time, and then I just was ignored, and I didn't know, and they opened my eyes to it. So, and just to give you a little bit of background, these guys, they come from everywhere, and that's the beauty. That's what I loved about it. It's like literally all backgrounds, rich, poor people, like literally homeless people to people that are, you know, rock stars in France. So I've seen, so it's really crazy how it's really embraced a whole different variety of people. And that was one of the things that got me really humble about this sport as well, is that everybody can do it, and it leads to greatness regardless of who you are. Basically, that's like I've just to give you, I mean, if I have time to give you a few details, they're fascinating details that really drove me to this sport. Is
Sure.
back in Paris, there was a huge wave of Afghan immigrants that came to Paris after the war or during the bad war, you know, and they were literally refugees that would sleep in the park, man. It's like they had no money, no home, nobody, nothing. All they had is their body and their will to train and to just stay healthy. And I became friend with a bunch of them, really. Like there was like a, you know, a team of the Afghans that would hang out there. And and you also had, you know, people that would live in Paris. They had like their daily job at a tech company, you know. It's like, and this world like literally tangled, and everybody was friends, and everybody would lift up everybody else. And I've seen some of these guys that had literally no house and no money, nothing, that were insane athletes. Their will, their determination to get good at it was amazing. And after a few years, some guys that were a little chubby or, you know, a little, you know, not physical at all, they became super strong, like insanely strong after a few years. I've seen that result. I was like, man, this is blowing my mind away. And this mixed pool of people and amazing progress at the same time really was fascinating to me and inspiring. So I kept on going.
It's
Really.
crazy because like I remember a few years ago, like I was watching something on YouTube and there were like a group of guys who did that in parks in New York City. I don't know if you've ever seen them, Jesse. They actually had a name.
I worked out with them.
You worked out with
Bar
them.
Stars? You
Bar
you're
Stars.
talking
There
about
you go.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
those
I-
guys.
Because there's a history to this sport, and Bar Stars is actually from Miami. So the real dudes from New York, and I didn't mention them, but of course I was seeing Hannibal for King on the internet back in the day. So the legit guys are from the Wingate Park. I've never been there, and I wish I can one day. But the Wingate Park in New York is kind of like famous for this. It's like all the OGs in New York. I'll name them, but one of the guys called Zev Zachiavelli. You can check him out on internet. He's like my age, even a little older. He's like 40 something, because I'm 40 years old. And these guys are so legit. Like they're the strongest dudes on the planet, and they're really low key. They don't brag. They don't, you know, try to bling anybody. It's legit. So yeah, absolutely. New York is a big is a big capital of that sport. They really like sparked everywhere else. And then Bar Stars came in as well. There's some dudes from Bar Stars as well, but I think the Wingate Park, and like there's also a guy called Giant that nobody talks about. He's an OG as well. And all these guys are very legit. They're super strong athletes and long term. Like they, you know, they don't stop when they're 30 basically.
Yeah, and that's what I love about this. I feel like you're using your body to do all these. I mean, I watch those videos and I'm always like, these dudes are insane. Like, how are they this strong doing these different things? And like, obviously, we started training a few months back for a race, and one of those was strength and conditioning. I remember watching a video to doing like a perfect push-up, and dude was like, you think you could do 50 push-ups, but if you do a right push-up, you ain't doing 50. And I was like, really? So I like followed the video. I was just like, I want to see, you know, I like did my regular push-ups. And then he was like, nah, you got to lock them out at the top. You know, your shoulders have to be, and then you have to go your chest has to hit the ground, bro. I was like, all right, let me do that. And then I did them. I did like 17. I was like, what the fuck? You know? And that's, you know, I just want to say that for the audience so they are aware of like, when you learn like perfect form, not what you normally do, the game changes. Like, you know, the perfect pull-up, you think you could do 12 if you're doing them wrong, and then you go and do the right one where you go all the way down, you come all the way up, you're only doing like 4.
The technique and the form is key. It really everything and it really drove everything that I'm doing now. Really, it's like I'm a they call me the form police, or it's like I don't let anybody use bad form. Basically, it's like I teach good form from the get-go, from zero, and bad form is just not allowed. That's how it was in the park. It's like you're not allowed to do it if you can't do it right. Just then be humble and use the exercise that's going to get you there, instead of just trying to like go too fast. Basically, it was a big thing in the park. Like there's like a ranking of things that you could do or not. It's like
Oh, wow. So wait.
Well, so
oh, go ahead, Jesse.
well, what I wanted to understand was, so how old were you at the time? You say you're 40 now. How old were you at the time when you met these guys at the park in Paris?
I was like 28, 29.
28, 29. Okay.
Yeah,
So
28, 29.
I'm curious to understand, like, what was happening in your life at the time? Because what this sounds like to me is like, this is really intense. You meet new people, you're meeting homeless people, you're meeting rich people, you're meeting this like sort of punk fitness group here in the park, who are humbling the shit out of you, right? Like you came from a comfort zone, the gym, where you were probably already kind of used to training a certain way. You've been training tennis for 10 years. You knew the space. You're in this now very random, seemingly like intense space. And you are going from a movement practice where you're comfortable to one where it's like, yo, this is aggressive. And the community is not allowing me to feel good about myself. You know what I mean? Like you're constantly being told that you suck, and maybe no one's telling you that you suck, but you look at the 12 push-ups that you can do versus the muscle ups that this guy can do, and it's demeaning. Even if they're being nice guys to you, it can be demeaning. So what was happening in your life that this became, so it seems like this space and this practice became sort of like a solace for you, or like a place for you to work your shit out in many ways?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You're 100% on the money, man. It's I needed I was looking for a long-term thing. I was in life in general. I had breakups back in a few years before that didn't work.
That'll do it, man.
Yeah,
That'll do it.
of course. No, but it was a few years before that. It's just like, it kind of like it cooked. It was a slow cooking
Lingered.
thing, like. And professionally, I was a business consultant. I studied economics, so I was working for a consulting firm. I was working for really big companies, multinational boards and everything. It was really like the politics, all the bullshit. And I really had to. I really wanted to find an outlet that was going to be more long term and more meaningful than what I was actually doing. So it's like it really dragged me there. And you're right, it was a discomfort zone for sure, but at the same time I was mentored there because I was taught by older people too. Like the one of the main guy there was kind of super he's like undergroundly famous in France. He's super strong. He's 15 years older than me, so he was already like 45 back in the days when I started. So that figure mentor thing really was a driver for me to get back and to learn. Really, I was wanting to learn. I didn't want to show off. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to learn and get better. Really, those were the two drivers. So that's why it wasn't a problem for me to. I didn't see it as a demeanor or it was fun. Like it was more like a group of friends that would cuss each other up when we fail or stuff like that, but like in a friendly manner, just not in a. It was a fun drill sergeant type of thing, like we'd all keep ourselves accountable, and it was kind of like a bigger group that I have had before when I trained. It was really like, and it was always changing, and you could go from that park to the other park. It was, so that's why it wasn't so I wasn't seeing it as negative, basically. But you're right. I wanted to find an outlet that would give me a long-term solution for my own life, really, to develop my body and my mind. It was like an outlet for my brain as well, to just be outside, like discover new things all the time. There's always new movements. you never get tired of it really, because once you get good at one thing, there's always this other thing that you're not good at, and you got to take, years of refinement and work on it again. It's just good. It's just it was a good feeling. So it's that was kind of like the driver for me in a way. But
and were you already starting to have ideas of like, hey, this might be a career path for me, this might be something that I pursue professionally? When did that start becoming a conversation in your head?
So that was not at all a preconceived idea. I had no idea I was going to do that at all. I just started doing this, like we said, and then after a few years, I got better, right? So let's say, 3-4 years in, I started becoming legit, and then you guys come to the park, and then I become the guy that teaches the other guys how to do it. Really, I passed it on again. It's like the cycles revolves. And that doesn't mean I was the best at all, but I've always been a good teacher. I have little siblings, so I've always been the guy who explains some of the stuff, So naturally, really, it made me happy to do it. Like I genuinely wanted to help others, and people would ask me stuff as well. So it was kind of like a revolving thing, and I became like one of the guys that start teaching in the park. When other new guys come. So there's a wrestler, a professional wrestler who was like a European champion. He was competing at the European champion level, and one day he just told me, "Man, you're a good teacher. I have a friend who has an academy of a martial art academy, and he just started like this." He just gave me an idea to open an academy. Basically, he encouraged me to make the move in the future. So he put the little seed in my brain, and it kind of like started to work it up. And it took a few years because it's a long process, right? When you quitting a job and just moving abroad, especially in the US, all the immigration process and all the whole thing, it takes a few years at least to get implemented. But that's really how it started. A few years back, the guy told, we had this discussion, and then it bloomed in my head, and I'm like, man, I need to change my career, and I need to open an academy, teach real things to real people, and instead of selling some bullshit to some corporation and deal with politics my whole life. So I just quit, and then moved to LA to open my first academy here.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, that is awesome.
It's
I want to bookmark that. I want to talk about that as well, but I'm gonna bookmark it because I want to go back and for someone and kind of go into where we want to go to, because in order to stay pretty fit and do this, because I can imagine it's pretty taxing on the body, even though you're working with mobility and flexibility and all these things. Like what specifically are you putting in your body, right? Like in terms of nutrition to keep it so strong, supple, flexible, so I know that's something that you also specialize in, is that nutrition aspect of it. So like I would want to hear how it shifted from businessman Nick to calisthenics Nick. Like what were the two differences?
It's a good question. I'm all natural, so I do nothing else than eating food and powders that are natural powders, not the chemical stuff. When I was in the gym doing powerlifting, I kind of like fell for whatever people would tell me to do. So I tried the whey powder, the whey protein stuff, the pre-workout, the gainers. I've only tried those 3 things, and I've done it for a year. I thought it was doing something, but really it wasn't. And I did my research, and then I started ditching all the stuff. And definitely when I moved into calisthenics, I completely stopped all of this. It was meaningless for me.
Was that were the guys sharing that information with you at the parks? Were some of your mentors like, did they have an awareness over nutrition as well, or was this something you were kind of doing on the side?
Yeah, absolutely. They were really good athletes, and most of them, they have that much money. They couldn't be the gym bros that have all the gear. So really what they would do is eat, you know, the food that mom makes, you know, like that big pot of meat and potato and, you know, like the stew, the whole amazing, you know, power food really that, you know, you can eat all the time. You never get fat, you get super strong, you get all the gains, you get all the protein. And it's very simple food. But meaning simple doesn't mean, you know, bad. It means nutritious and extremely good. So they're all eating really naturally and simpler, like simple food. And I've learned how to, you know, make my own pre-workout. You can make a pre-workout with some pineapple. You can just squeeze pineapple, like boil it up, a bowl of sugar, some cayenne pepper, and you got an awesome pre-workout right there. So all of this stuff, like the homemade, the do-it-yourself, the natural approach of eating and feeding your body, definitely comes from there as well. Absolutely, it's like I've seen like the gym bro, you know, the gym stuff with the gloves, you know, the whole. I like to make fun of the gloves, you know. It's just it's a thing for calisthenics people, because I don't know if you've seen hands of calisthenics, dude, but you know we got the calluses everywhere, and so
Yeah,
it's
you should see my hands.
That's good. Hell yeah. There you go. So the calluses, you know, it's like, so yeah, this whole thing, this whole natural thing that you don't need the bullshit that companies are selling you to actually be a healthy being and thriving person, that came from there. And ever since, I never stopped really. I love food. Again, I'm, you know, in France, we love to cook. We love the good food. And I've done my research. I've learned how food works really, what's good, what's not. You know, I've debunked all the myth. I'm a myth debunker. I don't know if you can say that, but basically I'm a bullshit debunker. Basically, that's my second specialty, is that I cut all of the crap, all of it literally, because I know a lot of it. I've worked for companies like Nestle, you know, like big conglomerate of food, you know, L'Oreal, you know,
Wow.
General Motors, you know, I can name it and name it and name it. It's just I've learned a
Damn.
lot from working for these guys, because
You've
I
been
know
on the dark side, brother.
yeah, absolutely. I know the behind the curtain, man. It's like you don't want to see it, you know. So it's I know the way it works, and I really wanted to do something else about how I teach people and how I live my life. So food was a big part of it, and I've learned how to really go the natural route like this. It's been a big
Wow,
influence.
that's
Yeah.
fascinating. I want to return to your experience there, because I think you can give people some serious insight as to understand, especially when we look at the world today, and powers that be and stuff like that. Not to freak anyone out or anything, but just to
No, yeah,
talk, you know, with a sober mindset about what's actually happening. So I
yeah.
definitely want to return to that. I still want to go back, because I think, you know, I think that your story is fascinating it's a very much like a hero's journey of like someone who was lost, working for companies that were, you know, probably draining your soul,
Yeah.
and finding this insane alternative, and carving out your own path. So I'd love to know what, was there an apex point, meaning like, was there a point where you wanted to quit? Like when you started on your journey, you know, you're probably seeing, like any fitness journey, you're probably seeing beginners gains, right? You're getting better, you know, time and time again. And then was there ever a point where you plateaued really hard, and um, you were like, man, I'm putting so much time and effort into this, and you know, these are the areas of my life are still not working out for me. Was there ever a point where you're like, man, I don't know if I could fucking do this anymore, or if I could really pursue this as like a real hobby or passion for myself?
That's so yes and no. So I've had the struggle part, but it never made me want to quit. So, and that's really what was the driving factor. Again, it really sparked the idea. Like I learned this. I was seeing that I had learned it, that it's struggle doesn't mean quit. And the movement that actually gave me a big hard time is the muscle up. I felt really stupid because those guys, they could like fly it up, like they would muscle the shit up like that bar. And I was, you know, I was trying for a few years, you know, to learn the technique. I'm 6'1", so I'm not, you know, I'm not a giant, but for calisthenics, it's rather tall. You see a lot of people that are a little smaller usually in that. So my mechanics were not ideal for this, and I was struggling a lot on this. So It took me at least a solid 2-3 years to get a good muscle up, a decent muscle up. So this was
and what was that process like? Can you walk us through the sort of evolution of that, how you got to do a muscle up?
Yeah, first I had to be good at pull-ups. This is what I tell people all the time. You know, they tell me, how do you do that? And I'm like, how many pull-ups can you do? They're like, I can do 8 pull-ups. So I'm like, well, it's not going to happen. You know, that's the reality of the thing. It's just not going to happen. So, and same thing, I could do 8 pull-ups or 10 pull-ups. And the dudes were like, man, you got to be doing 20 pull-ups. It's not 10. It's like 20 at least, you know? So I
That's a
like
lot of pull-ups.
yeah, but the volume, like we talked about, like life, you know, your perspective on life really changes. I've seen, and from that moment on, 20 pull-ups was not that many anymore for me. So I started to, you know, the struggle was not so much struggle because I was working up towards the norm, you know. So it was like a normal thing to be a part of. So I worked my way up. So I worked on my endurance. I worked on my strength endurance as well, my form, getting those, you know, nice chest pull-ups like always. Then you had some isometrics. You get those, you divide the movement into different sections. So you practice your pull-ups, you practice your holds, so the transition point, and then you practice the bar dips. So I started breaking it down. I started breaking down the movements that I couldn't do. I broke them down into smaller sections that I could practice and get good at. So that's how I discovered my ability to teach others, is that naturally I would break it down into a mechanics that was accessible to me. So I built up my teaching technique like this, basically. And all the movements are like that. So I struggled on the muscle up for a few years. And it wasn't a problem because I was plateauing. I saw that I was plateauing, but all the other guys were driving me to pushing more. You know, they're like, you got it, man. You know, you're going to get it. Don't worry about it. Keep working on it. And this whole like communal support really was the solution to not seeing as a failure. So I was never, you know, told, oh, you suck, or, you know, even if you can't do it, they're like, just do it again. Come back tomorrow, do it again, you know? And I would go to the park every single day. Sometimes I'd do one muscle up. So I like my whole training was walk to the park, visualize the muscle up in my head, mentally prepare for this, do a little warm up, you know, for the joints and everything, like so that you don't get injured, and literally just try it and fail. Most of the time, fail. It would drain my whole brain mentally to just get to that point. Then maybe I do a few push-ups, you know, set up a little push-up routine, and then go back to home, and then do it again the next day and try again. And that was and it was never a driver for quitting for me. It was that was the stepping point where I was like, you know what, doesn't matter, I'm going to keep trying. It's because everybody else was like that, and I'm not, you know, worse than anybody else. I can do it too. And just this idea really like built up, and it was an amazing discovery for me as well. Like, because you're right, most of the time we see it as failure and we quit, and you're like, you know what, I'm done. But the fact that you see the progress on your body, even if you fail at muscle up, you see the gains. So that's that's what kept me going, you know, because when you're here and you press up, you know, you feel that it's really tough, and you still progress at some point, you know, you feel it within your body. So that's what kept me from quitting, really, because I felt the benefits. It's not, maybe it wasn't visual, or, you know, I didn't look cool, but I felt it in my blood, you know. And it's that was a key factor for me to keep going, really. It was never an idea to quit anymore.
I want to point out to folks the fact that you said it took years to do a muscle up. Like most people, you know, at least in our day and age, they want results right away, when they, even if it's to do something hard, not knowing the amount of effort and investment and other things you have to do, like all these small little things you were doing, and you broke it down. You broke down that whole muscle up. Like, what are the muscles that I need to really work on? Oh, I got to do some bar dips. I got to do pull-ups. I got to do push-ups. I got to do all these other things to get me to even do one muscle up. Like, and the time that it took to do that. I just think it's such an investment. I guess if it wasn't for the self-awareness that you had with your body and understanding, like, every time I do this muscle up, I'm seeing this progression, even though it's minuscule, but I'm seeing it. And I just really want to point that out. It takes a lot of grit and like resilience and determination to really want to do it, to keep it going. and also like rewarding yourself with those small adjustments you've made that are helping you get closer and closer to that goal. So that's like something I really wanted to point out to folks. Like, just listen to that. You said years. I was just like, damn, most people would be like, oh, I'll get it in 6 months. Yeah, right. That's not happening.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a great remark. I mean, the truth is, in my nowadays journey, it's one of the hardest mission that I have, or my biggest struggle is to make people understand that, pass the idea on that it takes years. It's legit in the fitness and wellness industry, and that's one of the aspect that marketing companies, put under the rug, is that it takes years no matter what, and people are just, they have no clue of how long things take, and they want it right now. But it really takes, I talk to people every day about stuff. They want to do planche and levers and everything. It's like, you're like, man, this is the hardest stuff in gymnastics. You're talking about guys that have trained for 15 years to do that. And some kids, they want to do it, in 3 months. It's just, they have no perspective. It's like imagining the universe in your head. You can't really grasp the size of it. And people, they have this misconception about progress in their own body. They're not humble enough. The marketing companies, the marketing just doesn't make you humble. It tells you can do it now. And it's like, no, it's not. It takes time to develop the skill.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's a lesson I had to learn. That was a harsh lesson I had to learn in my own life, because I've been subdued by many of these marketing companies on my own journey to fitness. I'm 23 years old now, and when I started, bodybuilding.com was already out. A lot of these YouTube channels were already out. A lot of these fitness programs and influencers on Instagram were already a thing, and so that was my first inception of what fitness was. Were a lot of these companies and brands saying, 3 months to success, 4 months, 6 months, whatever it is. And because that was so hard grained into my body, it really wasn't until I'd say about a year ago where I came to a place where I was like, yo, if you actually want sustainable change, long lasting change, if you want real strength, real power, real endurance over time, especially once Ruben and I started training for the Spartan race, I had to really humble myself and look at like, yo, if you want to do this well and not injure yourself, because I have a history of injuries because of this mindset of like, I'm going to go hard, I'm going to go now, I'm going to fucking train every day, or, do whatever it is, and just crush every single day, not being mindful of my energy, not being mindful of my sleep, my patterns, my stress levels, all of these things, just like, sort of this this grinder mentality, which is a good mentality to have when it's appropriate, but when you're looking at, when you realize the levity of your goal, especially in fitness, and when you want to develop real like man strength or real woman strength, it takes time, and whether you're someone who does calisthenics or you do powerlifting or you do any type of training, the same rules apply. Like if you want to be long lasting in your sport, it's going to take a long fucking time, and so I thank you for driving that point home, because it is important. And so can you tell us about the day where you actually when you started to actualize real muscle ups, and how that felt, how that experience was? Because 2 to 3 years, that's a fucking commitment, bro.
Yeah.
For one thing, for one move.
Yeah, absolutely. And the truth is, I'll digress, but I'm also a musician. I'm a jazz pianist. I've played piano. That's my first career. I've played piano since I was very, very little. So I've learned the beauty of repeating a thing, and then you have no idea what you're doing, and then boom, you get that scale down, and then you can play it like it sounds awesome. And the serotonin level is like shoots to your brain. You're like, wow, it's like when you're a kid. So that's when I got my first muscle up. It was exactly like that. I was like, I had failed so many times. The serotonin level of satisfaction and accomplishment, man, it shoots to your brain, and you're like floating in the air. So I did one. So after I did my first muscle up, that was again my training. I would just go to the park, do one muscle up, leave. Literally, that was this. It's like And of course, I would go jog, and I mean, I would do other things, on the other days, and I would not just do one muscle up every day and that's it. But my point was, when I wanted to do a muscle up, I would just walk to the park for 10 minutes, uh, focus on my goal, and then make it happen. And the first time it was really like an accomplishment. Like I was on the bar and I couldn't believe it. Nobody was there. I was checking, like, is there a camera somewhere? Is that a joke? But and so I got it. I was really like, you're happy because you made it. It's like, actually, the thing is, in France, it's it's a test for firefighters. You can be a firefighter if you can muscle up with your gear on it. It's like, literally, they
Wow.
call it the planche. So, they put like a straight planche like this up in the air, maybe 10 feet, I don't know. And then you got to climb, and then like you got to pass that thing with your gear on. And that's your last exercise. And if you master this, then you graduate, basically. And in my head, I was like, man, I'm almost as good as a firefighter. It's amazing. Like, it's like, it's because to me there, and by the way, in that group was a firefighter guy who I still follow, from far away. But this guy is the strongest person on the planet that I know of. Literally insane dude. And I was like, man, I'm getting closer to that guy. I mean, this is like, I'm shortening the gap, and this is like, he's superhero strength level. And that was like a very satisfying moment and gratifying. And then I was like, see, it pays off. And it just confirmed my initial thoughts that hard work pays off. It really does. If you put it in motion properly, and you apply the tools that you decide to use, then it works. It's really inevitable. It's the beauty of the system. It's a struggle, and it's long, and it's hard, and it's sinuous, but it works. It's just it's a proven pattern.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so how did you go from training at this gym in Paris to opening up an academy in LA?
That was a long journey. I had been in LA 10 years prior to this. To finish my studies, I studied in LA to do music business. I wanted to be in the music business back in the days when I was younger. So I knew LA. I thought it was a great city. The weather is amazing, and it's great for calisthenics because the beach is there. So I needed something outside. So I was gauging my options. I almost went to Sao Paulo, to do this, but then decided to come back to LA rather than move to Brazil. It was safer for business. So yeah, I just decided that I had to get my head somewhere else, basically being in a new headspace and physical space. So I literally just decided to quit my job, and it took a few months, like 3-6 months. I had to finish, I had some job in the process that I had to finish. And then started to apply, for the visa here, came here to study the market, just so it went little by little. So it wasn't just a one go, but after I decided to quit my job, I just put in motion all the necessary steps to make it happen. So I came study, and went through all the hoops that you need to go through in order to make it happen. So it took about 2 years between the idea I decided to move on for this project, and then the execution, like the day I opened the doors. It took about 2 years of intense work. Yeah, it was not easy.
And so where is this academy in Los Angeles?
So I had to close the actual academy. I had it for 2.5 years. It was in Santa Monica. It was the first calisthenics studio in Los Angeles, if believe it or not. But I was the first one to do calisthenics in the whole LA area, and even really in California, awesome. I think, because nobody was doing it, and the reason is it's hard to sell. So if you're a fitness studio, you'd rather be a Pilates or a bunch of equipment stuff with a lot of fluff basically everywhere, so that you can make people understand that they have to pay for it. I was not that. I was the opposite. I was like the raw version of, of the fitness. So you came to my academy. All you got is metal bars. That's it. It's like there's no tools, no nothing. There's like pull up bars and muscle up bars. So it was in Santa Monica, and it lasted for a couple of years. It was great. It was a great journey. And I just had a few issues later on with rent, landlord problems, a bunch of I won't name all of these, but and then I transitioned everything online. Basically, I started doing everything online. It was I was like, you know what, I can do it there, I'm going to do it there. It's like I'm adaptable, I'm calisthenics. So if I can do this, I'm just gonna do it all the way. So but it was really, really cool. I met a bunch of amazing people, like great athletes, the whole community. So it was great. It's and in the future, I will do it again. It's I have time.
Amen,
so.
dude. I would love that. If you do it, if you make that happen, I will fly out personally to come and hang out at that gym, man.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, it's gonna happen. It's it will happen in a few years. It's the project is the big idea has still not been done. So we have big plans for the future. Absolutely.
Amen, dude. That's awesome. And so so now let's, moving forward, with your experience working with clients, because I've never actually spoken to someone who works directly with calisthenics and programming and programming with people. So I would love to pick your brain on that, because in my own experience, in my own education on the way fitness works, I have, my background is more understanding like reps and sets when it comes to whether it's power, hypertrophy, endurance, when it comes to training in a gym or training with weight. So I understand that world, but when it comes to calisthenics, that's still something that's difficult for me to get, because it's almost like the rules don't apply the same way as they do to calisthenics as they do to something else. Because, like, for example, if you want to build muscle mass, right, using weights, you'd find something that you do, like you could do 4 sets, 8 to 12 reps, and you do that, say 3-4 times a week. And it seems like if I was doing 4 sets, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm doing 4 sets of 8 to 12 push-ups 4 times a week, I'm not going to deem the same results like that. So I'd love to understand how you train for strength and hypertrophy using calisthenics movements.
That's a great talking point here. The reality of it is most of your muscle mass gains will come from your food. It's you can literally, if you don't do anything and you eat a lot, you're going to gain mass. It's not going to be a great mass, but so we train volume. There's basically the volume is key, like you've mentioned in the first place in calisthenics. So if you train with just body weight, because basically let's separate. There's body weight calisthenics, and then there's weighted calisthenics. Once you become better, once you become more advanced, you can start doing weighted calisthenics. You put a weighted vest, on, and then you do the same movements, the same things, but with a vest on. So it makes it 10 times harder. But let's go back to the body weight aspect of things. Basically, what you want to do is high volume, high intensity, and combining it with isometric sets. So we combine a bunch of different techniques into one set. So, for example, if you do 100 wide forward lean push-ups all the way through, plus another 100 of another 100 dips, and then 100 pull-ups. Sorry, you do 300 reps within less than an hour, and then you go eat 1,500 calories. You're gonna gain mass. It's a guarantee. You know what I mean? If your total calorie over the day is sufficient, you're gonna gain a good amount of mass. And let's say at the end of every set that you do, you hold the isometric. So if you do, diamond push-ups, you do 100 of them, and then you hold the last one down every time you do a set. you're going to feel like you're going to build hypertrophy and strength endurance and just mass in general if your calorie input is enough. So it's really there's not one way to do it. That's what I'm trying to say is there's no one recipe for building mass, or it's all tangled um, in the same training. So it's we don't look for the same things. Basically, in calisthenics, you don't really look for building mass. It's not a goal, really. It's just it's a medium, if you like. It's a medium, to reach another thing. It's going to be a consequence at the end. It's not really what we look for. What we look for is doing a human flag or doing a front lever. It's never a goal to gain mass. It's just within the process of doing a shitload of reps and doing it regularly and often, and eating the good food, like we said, the stew, then you gain mass. It's inevitable. But basically, you got to train enough to gain mass in calisthenics. Most people undertrain, and therefore they don't really gain enough mass because they're not putting the effort enough. It's really that simple. A lot of people they don't put enough volume into their training. And isometric is also a big part of a strength component. So it doesn't make you gain an amazing amount of mass, but it just solidifies the weak links. So because you do the weak links plus the whole volume, it really helps developing overall solid mass. But the realistic way of seeing things is that you won't put the focus on a special thing really as much as you do. You can, but that's not a goal. Again, we're not trying to get like a big delta or big whatever.
Right.
We don't separate the things as much. We don't put things in the box. It's a whole thing on its own. So but yeah, there's different ways to train. I wanted to make it kind of simple, but then of course you can refine it and you can step it up and break it down more in details if you really want to. And then you can lower the amount of reps and add weights. Again, it really makes a difference.
So you mentioned that a lot of people when it comes to calisthenics undertrain. Which is an interesting point. So for someone who maybe we can break this down into different levels, right? So like someone, let's say, who I'll reframe, because I feel like for a beginner, someone who's never trained, any training is enough training, right? Like if you're doing anything and you've never worked out before, you're doing 100% more than you were doing before, right?
Correct.
So let's take someone who maybe is been. All right, let's use me for example, right? So I've been training for a few years. I've done mostly, weight training now, and even before the shutdown, I started doing a lot more functional training. So a lot more kettlebell work, a lot more incorporating mobility, kettlebells, steel maces, and calisthenics to my training. Barbells if I was in a gym, but I'm not in a gym now. So, but really just incorporating holistic movement while still using weights, because I just personally really love pushing weight. It's still a joy for me. And using range of motion for that. But when I say I incorporate calisthenics, let's say if I'm putting in a push-up routine in my calisthenics or pull-up routine, I will do, let's say, 3 sets of 10 pull-ups or 3 sets of 15 to 20 push-ups within my workout routine, which also has kettlebells or whatever in it. If I wanted to actually see gains through my calisthenics routines, right? If I actually wanted, because one of the problems I have, and Ruben and I have talked about this as well, is like to actually gain reps on my pull-ups, I feel is impossible. I don't know how to gain more reps on my pull-ups. You know what I mean? Okay. And so maybe it's because of the way that I'm training. And I would assume that a lot of people who I do talk to, they can't do more than 5 pull-ups or 6 pull-ups. And at like the peak level, like if you could do 10, most people are like, wow, you can do 10 pull-ups, that's crazy, man. So, and I'm talking about like for years, I've only been able to do a max of 10 pull-ups. And when I say max, I mean like my body is shaking at the 10th pull-up, you know? So yeah, if you could provide any insight into that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and to give you an idea, one of my best homies that that's still in Paris, he does 50 pull-ups in a row. So it's like world record level, he doesn't brag anything, he just does it in the rain with nobody's there. He's just 50 and solid. Wow. So so to answer your question, calisthenics requires a specific focus. Like I said, you can't really hop from kettlebell to calisthenics into kettlebell. So I would recommend that when you when you do calisthenics, do a session calisthenics, then do your kettlebell the next day, but you got to focus on that. And there's the magic number, which is, it's not magical, but it kind of is. It's 300 reps within 1 hour. So you got to pile up 300 reps, and especially you, because you're rather advanced, right? You know what you're doing. You have an idea completely. You're not beginner. You're rather intermediate plus. So at your level, it's 300 reps minimum in 1 hour, and that pays a huge amount of importance. Like I said, the strength endurance of things. The calisthenics secret is to do a lot within a short amount of time, and then your body really pumps. It's like you get the mass like this, it's like it's hard to explain, but it really works. It's like there's a lot of different scientific factors and training methods that are all tangled into one. So you get cardiovascular activation, you get aerobic and anaerobic activation all together. So really, if your food intake is enough, you're going to gain mass, you're going to gain strength, you're going to get endurance all at the same time. So I would recommend you go for 300 reps within your session.
Wow.
And
how would you break that up? How would you could you provide a sample workout? How would you break that up?
Yeah. And to ease up in the reps, you can use pyramids. We use a ton of pyramids in calisthenics because it helps you visualize the progress and the pattern. It's not like you got to go to 10 all the time. So you go 1 to 10, 10 to 1, and then you switch to the other exercise. 1 to 10, 10 to 1 is going to be 110 reps. So it gives you that pyramid is 110 reps. So you can do 3 pyramids like this. That's it. It's a workout. So you could do a pyramid like this for push-ups, a pyramid like this for pull-ups, or a pyramid like this for dips, for example. And you could do 10 to 1, 1 to 10. You can do a reverse pyramid as well, and that would be a way to build up the volume for your training. And that's a big key. Like it's a key element because most people think they can, but you gas out and really it opens your brain once you're tired. And the guys are like, let's go again, man. Let's go. It's time, because you time the rest. You don't rest too much. The idea is that you train with friends or you had a timer and you basically, I do my reps, then you do your reps and so forth. So we keep each other accountable. So you can't really rest that long, because I'm done already. So you got to go again. It's like, you know what I mean? And I mean, I would gas out. Like I've trained with guys that are, athletes, like solid. And we do, push-up circles or like push-up one-on-one. And it gets you so tired and so strong. You got to experience it for your own, on your own to really feel it. So the volume is really number one with little rest. So these are 2 elements to really make progress. Once you start doing it regularly, you really build up. It's crazy how you build up. Wow. It's really efficient. Then there's an actual method to building more reps, and I can give it to you. Especially
we're getting all the goods. Yeah. We're getting all the goods today, Niko.
And it works really. It's like it's a proven method. Really, so how many pull-ups? So you said you can do 10 pull-ups, right?
Yeah.
So you take your max reps pretty much. And from there, you take, 90% of your max reps. So let's say 9. Let's say you can do 11. So that way it's easier. Let's say you can do 11 to your max. So your 90% would be about 10 reps. So you can start building sets of 10. So you would start doing 3 sets of 10. And from there, we're going to build up a ladder, a descending ladder. So you take 90% of your max rep. And so it's 10. So you're going to do 3 sets of 10, then 3 sets of 9, then 3 sets of 8, then 3 sets of 7, all the way down. And if you can go to 1, even better. But that's a way to build it up, and that works for muscle ups. That works for a lot of different muscles, different movements. So you triple your descending ladder. So based on 90% of your max reps, and it will take time to build up, but I guarantee it's going to work. It will. You'll see it. It's do it for a few months and it works.
Sure. And so if I did want to, if anyone listening to this wanted to start this, 300 rep fucking beast programming, can you provide like, okay, so for someone like myself who still would want to do kettlebell training and all other forms of training, how much required calisthenic 300 rep training or this descending pyramid training of 90% max would I have to inquire? Is that like, for like if in a week, if I'm training 4 times a week, 2 of those sessions have to be calisthenics, or if I'm training 3 times a week, 1 of those sessions has to be like, what would the ratio be for it to actually make a difference?
Yeah, I train calisthenics at least 2 to 3 times a week, and in general, especially you, because you're young and healthy and strong, I would definitely train more like 5-6 times a week than 4 times a week in general, just to get more gains. Really, my mentors, they work out every day, every single day. They're 55 years old to this day. They're ridiculous beasts, and this is really, it fuels the body, it fuels the energy. The more you do, the more energy you have. People think they're going to get overtrained, and really overtraining is really hard to attain. It's
I like to say overtraining is actually under recovering. Like
exactly,
you're under recovering. Yeah.
Exactly. See, you already have all the tools. Like you're there already. It's like all you got to do is just step it up a little bit.
Commit.
And and it works. It's like, so if you do those pull-up drills that I've talked about, do it at least twice a week, because honestly, it's going to take longer if you do it less. That's just that simple. It really is a matter of how long do you want to do it for until you get results. But 3 times a week would be ideal, and then you'd see probably more progress even. And I forgot sorry to mention, to practice. So doing those ladders, those 3 times, 3 times 10, etc. If you want to even get higher progress or quicker progress, you can add isometric holds at the end of each your set. So you do 10, and then you hold it up at the 10, all the way up, bar here, boom, you hold it. And you squeeze the scapula down, you shrug it, you like hold it solid, and you do isometric after every single set. You're going to build amazing strength. It's going to really progress, because you're going to build all the weak links there. It's going to want to shake, right? And then you're going to squeeze it up. And you can do different levels of the isometric. So you can do one set where you hold there, one set where you hold in the middle, one set where you just dead hang at the bottom, sorry. And then every set you just do that. And for weeks and weeks and weeks, you add a dynamic plus isometric within the same exact set. You're going to feel that. You're going to really build progress. It's guaranteed, 100% guaranteed.
Amazing. This is awesome, man. Thank you so much for giving us all the treasures.
Man, I'm that's what I'm here for. I have more. I can, there's a lot of cool stuff. Basically, like this is my specialty, is giving people like small things. People that think, oh, it's significant, and I'm like, no, this is like a gold little nugget here. So use it, because it's and really in the pull up, the progress comes from your form, really, at the end of the day too. You got to do those sets.
So what is proper pull-up form, for people to clarify? Because I've seen all types of shit. What is, in your head, and from what you know and what your masters have told you, what is proper pull-up form?
So there's two sorts of pull-ups. There's one that's more proper than the other, because it's more proper if you're beginner. So the number one pull-up is the hollow body pull-up. So I'm not sure if you can. So the hollow body means that you're hollowing your inside. So you want to lay down on the floor and have your back on the floor, and you want to be like this. So your head is here, my feet are here, and really I'm like standing like this, if that makes sense.
So are you basically saying that your lower back should be touching the ground?
Yeah, your lower back is on the floor. You have to have what we call the pelvis tilt, right? You got to reverse your pelvis, tilted it in. And that's the key element to get a nice, it's like a hollow body. It's like when you do a handstand, the pelvis tilt is always valid in calisthenics. That's the one thing that we always do, really. So tilting your pelvis is very important when you do a pull-up. So you want to have your feet pointing down, slightly in front of you, not in the back or arching your back. And you want to pull down all the way to your chest and then back up. So that's a clean pull-up where you keep your
and you dead hang at the bottom.
Yeah, right? You dead hang,
so you're not like loose. You're not. Your arms are straight out at the bottom.
You're extended and you're shrugged up still. So your arms are extended, but your shoulders are nicely like they're here, but they're still engaged. You're not completely letting go, right? You're not hanging from the shoulders. You're really hanging with your lats and serratus. So you want to be depressed in the scapula, but solid, basically. So you're here, and you shrug it back in, and boom, and back up here. You want this little shoulder thing, you know?
So you're leading from your lats. Your power is coming from your lats, not from your arms or
from scapula. So it's the scapula behind your back that's really doing the whole movement, and then you pull up and down. And keeping that hollow body is really important because basically you're not arching, and that's the best way to not arch. Then there's the bodybuilding pull-up, which puts the emphasis on the lats itself, which is a little more advanced, and that basically requires a little bit of lean. Basically, you keep your pelvis tilted, but you open the lats a little more, and you'd be arching a little more, facing the pec up instead of really coming down. So that would be what I call the bodybuilding way of doing pull-ups, and it's fine, it's good as well, but it's actually harder to execute properly. So I never teach that one to beginners ever. I really just don't. Because it's what's going to happen is going to, arch the lower back as well. They're just going to tangle. It's just going to happen to be bad form most of the time. Because realistically, beginners cannot do muscle targeting. They just don't know how. Like their neurons are not connected. They can't.
That's a great point.
So the best way is the hollow pull-up is the one I would always recommend first. This is the one you'll use for muscle ups. This is the one that really leads to a lot of neural connection that helps the body to stay in line forever, pretty much. So hollow pull-ups.
And so how do you, when you're working with clients, how do you break up days between working on developing reps in a movement versus just overall volume training? Or is it you're basically doing it at the same time all the time?
You are basically doing it at the same time all the time, but if you're really beginner, really you're not going to work on any specific movement. Really, it's just you're going to have to learn all the basics. So you work on the volume, you work on your form, and I like and it's been a proven pattern until you're really expert, or rather really advanced, that want to work on specific skills. It's really good to work your full body within the session. It really helps building up the metabolism, so kickstart it. So I'm not talking about you specifically in that case, but it works for really any level. So I would break it down into upper body and lower body within the same session. And we do a lot of supersets. It's a great way to, so I mentioned pyramids and ladders, but we also use supersets all the time in calisthenics. So you do a pulling, you do a pushing, and you keep on going for that pyramid. So you can do 10 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 9, 9, 8, 8, and so forth, all the way down. And then you do, a squat pattern, a hamstring exercise as well, and then finish with some core. That's an entire hour right there. That's a great way to get started.
Do you work core the same way, like looking at it from like you run the pyramid on your core as well?
You can. The core is a little different. You don't necessarily have to. You can do classic sets, but what matters for the core is the volume. It really most people you got to do enough volume for the core. So and exercises that are demanding enough. So we do a lot of hanging leg raises for the core, it's really most of the thing that we do is hanging leg raises, whether it's hanging on a parallel bar or hanging from a high bar. The leg raises are a great way to build up solid core and statics. So all the statics. So you go for time, really. You can build up for time. So you could do hanging leg raises and then L sits. That's a good workout for core. You know, and you hold it for 10 seconds every time, and you burn. It's like a good burn. And there's regressions too, right? If you can do an L sit, you do a knee tuck, you do any kind of alteration that helps you get there eventually. It's a good way to get started with the core.
And what about rest periods? So let's say if I'm working pyramids, between each set, how long am I resting? Whether it's a superset or just regular set.
The answer is as little as possible, really. It's a
so you just move on. You just move on.
Yeah.
If you can, you just move on.
Yeah. Basically you got to make your own rest, and for as a rule of thumb,
as little as possible.
Yeah. It's simple to remember, and sometimes it's like, man, it's like, really, but yeah, it's like that's the answer. And as little as possible, as long as you can keep good form. So you never want to give up rest for good form, or you don't want to give up good form for performance. So you got to basically integrate it in your head. So basically your rest time is basically going to be longer, probably over your training. So you want to just take not too much rest in the beginning, so you can keep going and perform and build up. And then once you get more tired, you can expand a little bit of the rest time. But I'd say, and again, it's hard to give you a full answer because it really depends.
Sure.
If you crank up, 10 muscle up at a time, maybe you're going to rest a little more than if you do 10 pull-ups. And, and if you do 10 pull-ups, you're going to rest a little more than if you do 10 push-ups. You scale down also your rest compared to what exercise you've been doing, what energy output you've just spent. Then you can rest a little more than if you've done an easier exercise. So really, you know what I mean? It's a balance to find, but the idea is that minimum rest makes the performance better. Eventually you gain a lot of strength endurance doing that. A lot of people just take too much rest really when they rest. So it's but I'd say 30 seconds should be enough, really. 30 seconds, 45 seconds maybe, but less than a minute, it should be good. You should be good to go.
Got it. So can you walk us through, because I want to talk about, I know Ruben and I definitely want to talk about some other things here. So to really round out this conversation on the performance and the training, can you just walk us through what your day looks like? Everything from what you do when you get up in the morning, when you get up in the morning, to when you go to bed, all the training and recover. Because like we mentioned earlier, overtraining is really just under recovering. And as someone who trains, it sounds like a lot, and who encourages other people to train a lot, what does your recovery routine look like? What does your food look like? Like what's your style of eating now? If you could just walk us through your day, I think that'd be great for people to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. I wake up fairly late, I think. I mean, I wake up around 8 a.m. So basically I'm trying to really get solid sleep, and I'm lucky enough that I can do that. But sleep is the first recovery that we talked about. Under recovering is often under sleeping. So I make sure that I sleep good, basically, is the first thing. Then first thing in the morning, glass of water. Kickstart your appetite, kickstart, the metabolism, the body to get activated. Then huge breakfast, enormous breakfast. I mean, enormous for me, but basically I tell people to really load up on their breakfast so that you get the energy input for the rest of the day. A healthy breakfast. So, eggs, avocados, healthy breads if I eat bread, or a bunch of, a bowl of oatmeal with some almond butter and some fruits and bananas, healthy sugars, maple syrup, honey, all these kinds of things. I just circle around it for my breakfast. And black coffee. That's my pre-workout, basically. Black coffee, dark, no sugar, no cream, and organic that I grind myself. Amazingly tasty. And I want to notice that. I want to mention that because so many people drink coffee. It's very, very important to drink organic coffee, because the non-organic coffees are full of pesticides that literally pile up in your body forever. You can't get rid of it. The coffee absorbs it too much. So go for organic coffee. So that would be, the first thing is good sleep, good breakfast, and then I usually go for a mobility session, not long, really, like 5-10 minutes, just get the body going, and then really I work out throughout the day whenever I can. So if I'm really busy, I'll work out in the afternoon. If I can, I'll work out in the morning. But I won't work out too early because I need the body to wake up. So if I wake up in the morning, I'll most likely, for the actual strength part of the training, the real training, I'll do it around midday, 11 a.m., something like that. If I can. And if I can't, I'll do it later in the afternoon, like 5-6 p.m. 5-6 p.m. used to be my go-to. But now that I changed my lifestyle, I can do it earlier. So it would be that really good breakfast, warm up the body, and it doesn't have to be long, but it has to be multi-joint. So I have a warm-up routine. I work out every section of the body, which is, I like to divide the body into 3 different lanes or lines. You got the shoulder and the neck, you got the hips, and then the lower body with the knees and ankles, basically. So I work out those 3 layers, if you like, for a total of 5-10 minutes. Really, I'd be happy to share. I have a bunch of YouTube stuff on my YouTube channel. It's a small channel, but I have posted a whole lot of stuff on there. So I'd be happy to share with you in the future. And so I do that little routine, really, and then a good workout. And basically I base my workout on what I did yesterday. So if I did, legs yesterday, or, lower body focus, then if I did lower body with a high volume, maybe the next day I'm going to do upper body with skills. So statics, I'll practice a lot of handstand, a lot of core, I'll try to balance out my workout so that I don't repeat what I've done the day before. And then it gives me a break for the day later. So that kind of like is how I build up my day throughout around my work schedule. And then a very important thing that I do, and that really, really helps, is the night. I have a night routine. And again, it's 5-10 minutes before I go to bed. So I have that right after I came up, I wake up, and then right before I go to bed. And it's again, I try to work out those 3 layers. I have a routine that I do. It's really short, it's 5 minutes. And I try to really relax my shoulders, my wrists, my forearms, everything that's been really activated during the day. And it just puts me to sleep in a second. It's it really, it's like, it's amazing because you have all those releases or hormone that just shoot through your brain. And if you combine that with a little bit of breathing, because I teach breathing as well, you can do literally when you're laying down, you can just do some breathing. And that's a big part of my recovery. It helps tremendously to sleep well again and re-engage in that positive cycle that we talked about. And then the next day I do it again. It's and I in my food. And so now that was the scheduling. And throughout the day, I try to eat good food. That's really the key point here. It's constant recovery. Basically, every time you ingest something that's good for you, you're just recovering. So I do a lot of homemade foods, like we talked about. I cook everything. I never do takeout or anything like that. I live with my girlfriend. She's an amazing cook. So we like to share this stuff. So whoever is sharing their life with their significant other, it's a good way to build your days. It's to share food, the food enjoyment together. So we do that a lot. And a lot of superfoods, adaptogens, basically all of these little details, they really make, if you put them together for 10 years every day, it makes it day and night difference. So that's my recovery process, really. It's being constant about it. I don't have a special secret. I just have little things that I do all the time, every day, basically.
Do you do any like probably not every day, but occasionally like maybe do like cold plunges in the Pacific Ocean, or like you know, hot sauna that may be open. I mean, I know it's COVID, so not a lot are. But do you do any kind of recovery like those, or just this is what works, so you're just sticking to it?
Yeah, I like to start. I mean, I do some breathing, some more intense, like, you know, Wim Hof breathing session, you know, on the, you know, on the weekend when I have time to actually chill and really take the time for it. I like, yeah, to go to the beach and meditate there, do some handstands. This is part of the recovery. I love cold showers, so I do cold showers as well.
Okay.
This helps, but it's a thing that it's hard for people to build up to, you know. So that's why I didn't mention it right away, because, you know, people might be like, oh, this guy is you know. But yeah, the cold.
Hey man, we got some gangster audiences, man. Don't
Yeah. That's awesome. It's like, so yeah, cold
hey,
showers
they're ready
are
to
great.
roll, man.
Yeah, nice. Let's go. So yeah, the cold really helps. Breathing and cold are really great tools to add, because people, you know, often work on the mobility. That's something they do.
Mm-hmm.
But the breathing and the cold, they really, really help as well. They're just like that little cherry on the cake that really makes everything else better. Because if you can breathe right and resist cold and lower your stress levels, it really, like, it balances your body just so good. You know, your hormonal balance becomes optimal, and it's and you feel great. Because really, right, what we feel is literally the hormones. It's physically, you know, when people say, oh, I feel good, or if they say I feel bad, that means that their hormone balance is not up to par. So they need to work on that, and that really helps leveling the things properly. It really helps.
So I guess a great place to close out is knowing all that, you know, being someone who's seen behind the curtain of corporations and everything on that front, and having, you know, made your way out, having now committed to a lifestyle of health, positivity, wellness, you know, sovereignty, self-management. Having seen both of those worlds, what is, and understanding the world that we're living in currently, what is your current mission with everything that you're doing? And if anyone here is interested in working with you or following along your journey, you know, what can they, you know, what sits at the heart of Niko?
It sits that, I mean, it really is based on the fact that we are enough. We are the most amazing machine that's been, you know, created, that we know of, really. I'm not saying there's not better, but at least from the observable universe, so far, we're like the most advanced stuff, really. And most people are not conscious of that. So I really want people to understand that they don't depend on anything of the shiny stuff that they see on TV or on their cell phone. It's they're enough, and they can be amazing on their own. Like, that's really my message. They don't need stuff around, you know, they don't need external stuff to be great, basically. And that's what really I'm trying to teach people and make them achieve, really, in the end. That's the message behind what I'm trying to project, is really, we are amazing creatures, and we just undervalue ourselves, and we tend to focus on the other things that make us feel, you know, quickly happy, but it's not efficient. So I'm trying to discard all of the shiny stuff and really refocus on the essentials, which is, you know, what we just talked about: the natural training, the natural foods, no supplements. I want people to, you know, spend their money on important things, you know, spend time with their significant others and families, go on a trip, like, have fun, you know, discover the world. And you don't need to spend $2,000 to get the new Fitbit and the new app and the new thing and the, you know. So that's really the message behind what I'm trying to do, is be smart about how you do it, and really you'll get more results by doing that, and you'll feel better in your life, really. And you'll get more energy, get stronger. So that's it's really important to me that people understand that they don't need, you know, what they're being sold, basically, most of the time. It's for when it comes to well-being and natural self-development, you don't need a company for this. You can't, you know, you need a teacher. So I've had mentors, so I really am trying to mentor others. So you need the knowledge, you need the will, you need the patience, but you don't need everything that you're buying. Basically, you need intangible things to achieve natural well-being, and that's really what I'm trying to really teach people, and it works really. It's amazing. Like I get high from this when I see others succeed. Really, it's just so fascinating because it's like, I don't know if you guys have had a garden before, but it's like when you plant just a seed, like this insignificant little thing, and then you let it grow and it just becomes an amazing thing. And it's like, how did that happen? And then and humans are exactly the same, just on another scale. So I've had people that I taught 6 years ago, that moved on to Europe, and they're still doing it. They became amazing athletes. They're doing exactly what we talked about. They I have friends that started their calisthenics group back in Spain, that I've met here, and then they moved back, and they kept this whole movement and this whole cycle going for themselves, and they see they're passing it on. Basically, that's it. I've done my duty. I've gave them the recipe, and then they just cook their own menu, and then they pass it on as well. And that's the beauty of this. It's like, this is a revolving process that needs nothing else but our well-being. So you guys can do it. You can teach others, your family, everybody else, and it's going to make a nice cycle of life, really. So I'm trying to pass it on.
Couldn't have said it better, Nick. I mean, I just recently wrote a blog article and I found a quote, and it was like, humans are like plants. We need water and sun, but with emotions. Like, that's it. Like,
Yeah.
So I love the fact that you talked about the seed, and I think that's really something here. But obviously, you've taught us a lot here. You've taught the audience a bunch of stuff. And I'm confident that they're going to be seeking out your help. So, please share where folks can find you, your YouTube, your Instagram, wherever else you kind of spend your days, like, please, so that folks can connect with you.
Yeah. So just, if I can mention it, the website is called onlinecalisthenics.com. And there's a bunch of free stuff on the website already. There's ebooks for free. And I post tons of videos on YouTube. There are tutorials. I really spend a lot of time doing those. It's a small channel, but it really helps. Of course, I need to make a living and pay my rent, but I'm really first and foremost to really trigger people's love for the sport. So if people can go on the website and get all the free stuff that will already, I teach people how to build their own workout for free, how to eat for a full day for free, how to build a full month of good habits for free. There's all those tools that are there, and it really is practical. People are using it already. I mean, I've had a lot of people that use it. So if anybody who's listening try, to get into the habit of this, then they can get those all these resources and get started. I'd be more than happy to help. So yeah, this is definitely a bunch of stuff that people can practically do and start now. Really, it's and that's the beauty of it. We can all start right now and do it. So it really helps. It really helps the growth process eventually.
All right. So onlinecalisthenics.com. And I know you're also the same name on your Instagram. So if people want to reach out to you personally, anywhere else, or those are the two, you're like, just go those.
I have actually my academy was called, and it's my most popular website. It's called Street Workout Academy, like a street.
Street Workout Academy.
Yeah. And I have Instagram as well for this. It's like the Street Workout Academy was the actually academy, and then the online things was the online. So we have those two things, and there's resources on both, and really it's the goal is for people to really take everything they can from this and learn it and grind, like we talked about at the beginning, get that power, the revolving cycles of struggle and happiness, of success. It's really built for that. Basically, it's meant to be hard, but then really rewarding at the end. Once you pass the threshold of success, you feel very accomplished. It's just like, you guys, the Spartan race. I know you guys know about that. It's like, once you finish, you pass that finish line, you're like, man, hell yeah, I did it. It's like, you know what I mean? When you pass that obstacle, just that one obstacle, you're like, you feel great about it. So it's just a lifestyle, really, that we can feel that really often and and great about ourselves like that. These are small wins every day, basically, and it makes a difference.
Amazing. Well, Nick, it's been amazing having you on, man. I appreciate everything you talked about in this versatile episode and giving actual practical applications for folks to use. So thank you so much for jumping on and taking your time today of being with us.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks. I love talking about things like that with you guys. It's awesome. Like having passionate people as well. It's always a pleasure to share that with you guys. So, if you check it out and you ever have questions, I'd be happy to answer in the future as well.
Yeah,
And,
well, we will.
Hopefully we can get a session together once we're all in LA.
Yeah, hell yeah,
hell yeah,
hell yeah.
The summer or something, we're gonna crank up those reps and make some progress.
I'm gonna have to train for that. I can't be showing up. I can't be showing up weak to LA. Out there. So
in the meantime, check out the Wingate Park in New York. You got that park right there. It's like you'll find people that do it. It's a guarantee. Let me know how that goes, because it's they're gonna be no joke there.
And yeah, we would of course love to have you back on to talk more about the training. I'm definitely going to start incorporating the things we talked about here, and would love to follow up and talk more. And I'm sure there's tons of things we could talk about. And we'll likewise, it's always wonderful, especially now. It's always wonderful to meet like-minded folks and people who are passionate about life and excited to share wisdom with others. So again, man, just thanks for coming on, and we look forward to having you on again soon.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. Really, let's do it anytime. And in the meantime, go crush it, and you'll see it works. And have a great day, and live a healthy lifestyle. That's the rule right here.
That's right.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll talk to you later. Peace.